And we're so not used to having our presence honored. We're used to having our presence taken for granted. We're so used to having our presence overlooked for what we produce.
I love conversations like this where I just really resonate with the person I'm talking to. Aaron is such a cool guy. And these concepts that we talked about, bridge building, not sacrificing individuality for fitting in, embracing who we are, not just embracing, celebrating. We talked about performative cultures, and we talked about the myth of hard work. Getting out of transactional relationship dynamics. We talked about how we are culture makers. We create culture wherever we go. And I just love the culture that he creates. And I really enjoyed this conversation. And I'm sure you're going to as well. I wanted to jump right into what we had talked about earlier about your perspective on life and class and kind of being around the different worlds and different perspectives.
Yeah, I've been fortunate growing up here in America, especially as a Black man in America growing up. Definitely middle class. Some would say upper middle class. I've had to almost walk two different pathways in life. On one hand, I've had the privilege of seeing those who have privilege, but also by being a minority or person of color in America, I've seen those who clearly do not have privilege, and I can also fall within that. And so my life perspective has always been sort of based on duality and seeing both sides of the coin, both sides of the street, but still trying to find a community, trying to find a place in society, if that all makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just such a vital thing to be a bridge builder and to see different kinds of people and say like I know what we have in common.
Absolutely, and I think when I look at over my skills, in terms of who I am as a person, or probably my greatest attribute in a group dynamic, I always say that my greatest attribute is being a bridge in between people. I'm an introvert at heart. In fact, I have a podcast which we may drop later, based upon my life as an introvert, and so I would never be the life of the party, but when I am the bridge, I can bring life to the party. And so I really do focus in on that. And how do I connect groups? How do we find commonalities within, things that we love and our passions, but also respect differences. And so, I definitely support being a bridge within community settings.
Oh, it's a powerful word. Definitely resonates. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts about fitting into different worlds and the expectations of them.
Katie, I think growing up, and even recently, I'm 37 now, and I've spent a large chunk of my life praying for normalcy.
Mm.
I realized early on that my perspectives and some of my passions and values just did not align with a lot of those people around me. For instance, popularity. Popularity was never huge on my list, even though I had it. And so I remember just being really popular, but still understanding that life is based upon this small group of people that truly cared and saw me for who I truly am, or or truly was. And so when sort of navigating life in this sort of duality, the normalcy that I used to pray for, now I've learned to accept who I am. I create my own normal. um People may not agree with my perspectives, my background, my insights, my humor, my values, my loves, my hates, and that's okay, because they're uniquely mine. And so in this world of trying to fit in, and in trying to almost as if we almost have to sacrifice our individuality, I've made a choice in my 30s to really embrace my uniqueness,
Mm.
and not only embrace it but celebrate it. Like, it's sort of for lack of a better word, to use American slang, it's sort of dope to be a little weird and unique, and to walk my own path and discover that at 30. discover that in my 30s, and just continue to walk that, throughout my life. So, I enjoy this path that I'm on, and I'm embracing it.
Yeah, I hear that. Like, if you're aware so much of expectations, you're just not free.
Yeah.
And like our my background is pretty different. Like I was lower middle class, wearing clothes that were hand-me-downs, like being teased about a lot of things not popular by any stretch of the imagination.
Hmm.
um and it's so nice to be free of, like, okay, the expectations on me then was, oh, that's the weird girl that sings in the hallways, like,
Yeah.
what's her deal?
Mhm.
And it's like now people are more understanding the things that make you different are your superpower.
Absolutely. And because we're taught to conform, it's so easy to conform, and it's so easy to assimilate, and it could be lonely, you know, and in this world, we don't embrace loneliness, as I don't think we should, but we also don't embrace uniqueness and separation. Sometimes, in those moments of being quote unquote alone, or isolated or separated, I find the most peace. And because I'm in my own space. And so, it's a this human experience is it's a lot of juggling. It's a lot of trying to balance. It's a lot of trying to fit in. But what do you do when you don't fit in, and when you just but then you stand out? And so as I've, reached and maneuvered into my 30s now, as an educator, as a parent, as a human being, I try to help people see their uniqueness and find value in that.
Mm.
Your gifts, your passions, your insights may be different from mine. That's beautiful, because it's a learning experience for the both of us. It's an opportunity to share at this sort of proverbial table that we have when we interact. And so why not, bring your best self? In this case, what do you bring to the table? You bring all of you, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So when we first talked, I just wrote down like things that you said that resonated with me and that I wanted to hear more about. And so
Mhm.
one of the things I wanted to hear about from you was your thoughts about performative cultures.
Yeah, I think we are in a very performance-based culture, in which it goes back to almost that conforming into that assimilation. And so we're taught to react as opposed to search within self to see if how we do something, or our reaction, or if our performance is what we should do. We're taught to dance in front of others, and meanwhile sacrifice self, sacrifice your integrity, sacrifice your morals and your values, because I think in this sort of world in which we're taught that our next opportunity is housed, or is possessed by somebody else, as opposed to understanding that your opportunity is really within self. We're taught to perform to get that opportunity, as opposed to reflect or rely on our insight in order to create our own opportunity. And so
Mm.
it's an interesting sort of, you know constant dance. It really is a dance with the devil, because you know if you don't have values, if you don't have, or if you don't hold your values, if you don't respect your boundaries, or have boundaries, what are you willing to do to get that door open? And
Mm.
that's almost our society. We're taught to, get the door open, get the wealth, get the material items, do all this, but is it worth it to get all that? And yet you hate yourself when you possess those items. And so, yeah, it's very, we live in a, very much so performance society, performance world, in which we observe everyone else's wishes but our own.
Yeah. And you think that if you perform a similar thing to what someone else is doing, you will just have their success. Like I see that in
Yeah,
the YouTube world all the time. Like I'm doing this and I did all these right things. Why haven't I gone viral yet? or they like follow trends to go viral. But what if that video does? Is that sustainable?
Yeah.
Is that something you really want to be stuck doing for the next however long?
And I think part of this is social media, and it plays a huge role in it in terms of we don't know people's stories. Your story can't be a 30-second clip. Just because someone may drop 7 ways to success, there's so much more behind the steps. And so we miss out on the stories because part of this microwave type of society is that we want instant gratification and we don't want to invest, or we rely on eyesight more than insight. There are common principles of not even hard work, because I don't believe in hard work. But I do believe in working principles, having a work ethic and having insight. Your path may be different from mine. Your recipe for success may be different from mine. What success looks like can be different. But once again, in this sort of assimilating, conforming world, instead of honoring the path that we're on, we almost envy the path that others are on. And we are willing to sacrifice integrity, values, morals, and a sense of self just to achieve a taste of what someone else may have.
Yes. I when you said I don't believe in hard work, I was like, I know exactly what you mean, or at least I think I do. That toxic hustle culture that's just like, you can't have a life, you can't
Yeah,
sleep, you just have to work harder and harder. Like if every hard worker was a millionaire, there would be no poor women in Africa. Like
absolutely.
I've been to South Africa and I've seen how hard people work and don't have anything.
Absolutely. I think, it's part of it, being here in America is that in our venture states around the world, this sort of labor mentality. And when I
Mm.
go into jobs, when I go into occupations, and when people, especially people of a certain rank within companies or organizations, the higher up I seem to go and interact with those on that type of level, they don't describe themselves as hard workers. Only people at the bottom do. And so I've learned to value, I work with my mind. I work with my insight. I'm a creative, I'm an innovator, I'm a visionary. I won't tell someone that I am a hard worker because I'm not here for your labor. And I think that's the difference between, in many ways, and I don't know if this is on subject or off, but like that to me is a creative space that allows me to do the best that I can do in whatever space that I'm in. I'm not here for your labor. I'm not here to break my back. I may not even truly be here for your position as much so as I'm here for my purpose. So yeah.
I hadn't I sorry, I'm going blah, 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 blah. What's that story that we were taught in school about the slave who was doing a competition against the machine? Do you know what I'm
I'm not
talking
sure.
about?
Mm-mm.
It's like
No.
this inspirational story they taught us where he was like the model slave, and he's like, I'm gonna work harder than that machine and I'm going to show you that people are stronger than machines. And he like killed himself
Yeah.
doing this thing, and like, oh wow, what an inspirational story. No, the F, it's not. It's
Nope.
not inspirational to die for somebody else's work.
Nope. I agree. And whether you are for anybody, because like I said, it's people of a certain class. It's not just race or ethnicity or whatever it may be. It's people of a certain class, and growing up, hard work was preached to me. Even being middle class or whatever, upper middle class, whatever it may be a hard worker. But I see now that people in power don't value hard workers. They use them, they manipulate them, they burn them out and they break them. And then once they're broken, they replace them. And so I don't give people the power of breaking my back. And also, which goes back to my earlier statement, I don't view people, I don't view people as the gateway to my next opportunity. The power, I tell my children, the power is within you. I don't need to look and see and see how I need to rub elbows or make so and so feel comfortable in order to get my next position, or because if I don't, my door is closed. No, the power is within me. I can open up my own door, and that's the beautiful thing. So yeah,
Oh, I love
if that
this
all makes
so much.
sense.
It makes so much sense. Uh, I who are you? What made you who you are? Just this person with such insight and wisdom and clarity.
I had to lose it all. I went through a lot of stuff in my 20s. I tell people, like, I went through hell in my 20s. I was depressed. I was losing. I was I was depressed. I was losing a sense of self. I lost my community of folks I was around. Um, Relationships were crumbling. I was in this dark cloud of my 20s, post college graduation, in which I was just burnt out on life. I lost jobs. I lost opportunities. I lost it. I lost so much. I didn't lose it all, but I lost so much. And I remember talking to one of my friends who's just a year older, and he said that my 30s will treat me better than my 20s. And I remember praying for that. Like, I want my 30s to be better than my 20s because my 20s were hell. My 20s, I felt like in my 20s, life had to be so concrete, in which, it was either black or white or up or down. And I had to be so much of something that I projected to be, but I really wasn't. But in my 30s, I've learned not to, I still see the black and white, but I've learned how to exist in the gray, which is probably where I feel most comfortable, in that in between of still being the bridge in between the black and the white. But being in my 30s, I've learned how to live, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning, but I have a better understanding of self, of what I bring to the table, of my uniqueness, what I value, instead of, like I said earlier, instead of praying for normalcy, embracing individuality. My perspective may be a little different. Um, and people tell me that all the time, like, how do you think this way? Where it can either be off-putting or people can embrace it, but it's just how I'm wired. It's just, how I am, and I'm learning how to see the beauty in it.
Mm, I love it. I just feel like we could just talk for hours and hours and hours. Like we'll just have to start our
Absolutely.
own podcast or something. I don't know.
Boom, that's it. Create the bridge. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask you, what are the challenges of connecting with people in the space they are in? That's another one of those phrases that you said that I was like, oh, this is good. I got to write this down.
I think one of the challenges of connecting with people in the space that they're in is that, once again, it goes back to that performance culture. Authenticity is not valued. Being your authentic self, whether it be good, bad, or the ugly, or whatever it may be, is not valued. So, a lot of our relationships are transactional, whether they be in a business space or in a friendship space or whatever it may be. It's, what can you do for me? And what can I maybe do for you? And is this going to be worth it? Where if we look back at our friendships, I don't know if our friendships and our best relationships, I don't know if we took that in the beginning. We just bonded over the color red, or that we liked, we both like chicken nuggets. Cool. But as adults, it's we overcomplicate things. And so some of the just challenges of meeting people in their spaces, authenticity. Can we both be authentic? Can we both be safe in this place? Um, I let people know that, regardless of your position, I see you for the person. Regardless of what you produce, I see you as the person. I don't value you because you hold more degrees. I don't value you because you have, the nicest, the finest of clothes. I value you because of your heart, because we're in the same space, and I honor the presence of people. Like, I tell people all the time, and I don't know if people get it. Like, I think they do when I say it enough, but like, I honor their presence. They could be anywhere in the world with me, or they could be anywhere in the world, but they're here with me for this appointed time, and that's to be honored. And we're so not used to having our presence honored. We're used to having our presence taken for granted. We're so used to having our presence overlooked for what we produce. But to tell someone like, yo, I honor you for your conversation and for this conversation, for this moment, that's what I believe. And so if we could just get back, well, actually, I don't even want to say that. If we could move forward and learn how to embrace authenticity and embrace each other for who we are, we will overcome those challenges of being in a space.
Yeah. I don't know. Are you familiar with this person named Shane Claiborne?
I'm not.
I had a conversation with him on my channel. He wrote a book that really impacted me in my 20s called The Irresistible Revolution. And he made it happen that he went to go meet Mother Teresa and work with her in India, this young college kid, because he was like, is there any Christian who actually follows Jesus? Who's not in it for the fame and the money and everything? And so he's like, Mother Teresa, she's somebody who's got a reputation. And he worked with the dying, and some people said namaste to him, and he didn't know what that meant. And someone told him, like, it means I recognize the presence of the divine in you. I mean, I could be butchering that, but basically that's what it means. Like, I honor the spirit that I see in you. Just made me think of that when you said that.
No, it's when people can see the best in us. I instead of seeing the performer, instead of seeing the person who produces, when people can see us for who we truly are and having those moments of, I love it when people can see something in me that I can't see for myself, because I can't see it all. In fact, I can't see most of it. And so I have to have people around me, or I have to embrace the possibilities of someone who I don't know coming up to me and sharing something, some sort of form of insight or wisdom about me, to help sort of paint the picture a little bit more clear as to who I am. And so, those moments, as you spoke, about, the gentleman serving, with Mother Teresa, and just the pursuit of true purpose. I believe in that. When people can see when people can see not only the good in you, but when people can see the great in you, those are the moments I go for. I often meet people, that tell me there's something about me, and I used to run away from that phrase, like, there's something about you. I can't put my finger on it. And for so long, I was like, I don't like that phrase, or please define what it is, because I want to know. But it took some time. And, and I'm a man of faith. I believe it's the God in me. I believe it's the love that I show. I believe it's the uniqueness. If you don't believe in God, it's the uniqueness of who you are. When people can't put a finger on it, it's because it's too large. It's too big for the finger. They can't put their hands around it, but they know it when they're in your presence, that there's something unique and different. And so, those are the moments that I use for momentum in my life. I use those moments for momentum to get me to the next place.
Oh, absolutely. That recognizing what we see in people is something that we need to commit ourselves to. Like, we need to hear it ourselves, so other people need to hear it too. I came from a culture, I was a missionary at the theater company, Covenant Players, and it's a very affirmation-based community. We would always be recognizing people's work, thanking them, honoring them, recognizing their growth in performance. And coming out of that organization, it's hard to not be recognized and to not be seen. And it's like, I want to do that right now. Okay. So even only talking to you just a few times, I just see someone who's so filled with purpose and power, that I imagine that you just must be like a magnet that people just like are drawn to, like almost like this mental picture of like kids sitting at your feet, like even though that seems a little, might sound a little silly, but I just see like that you just like beam with love for people.
Thank you. It's funny that, so to confirm your image, it's I am the, think about this weekend. I'm the unexpected. Like that is what I am. Like when I go into a place, I am I'm not going to be the quote unquote life of the party, but I can bring so much life to the party. I'm the unexpected, almost like the unexpected influencer. You know, how would I explain it best? Like when people see me, they don't understand what's on the inside of me. They don't understand my heart, or or my vision, or my mind. They don't know, they can't see it. And sometimes due to some of society's stereotypes, my appearance, even in a hoodie and in a hat, can be off-putting to some. But when people interact with me, they know something is about to happen. And with a lot of my students who I mentor, they know I'm an introvert at heart. They know I'm a bit odd. They know I walk to the beat of a different drum, but yet they seek me out. And it's not just and there's so many different types. It's students in my previous job. I was an academic professional. I ran an academic center in a library that served between 80 and 120 kids a day from over 20 different nations, predominantly East or West Africa. And so to go into a space, and and I have I call them daughters from Kenya, Somalia, Ghana, Eritrea, or sons from Nigeria, for them to call me father, and to understand that value, even of being, I may be of a different faith. Oftentimes I am. I have earrings in my ears. That's not the thing to do for men in certain cultures. And yet, I have multiple students who will call me, and they will ask me this question, and it always blows me away. They say, Mr. Aaron, tell me something about me that I can't see for myself. And I take that as a huge like honor. I call them my daughters, like the two individuals, really three, that I'm speaking about. They are from Kenya. I met them 2 weeks after they were removed from the refugee camp. When we first met, the language barrier was so heavy, but yet we understood the presence, even though we couldn't speak. And to meet them 2 weeks removed from refugee camp, and to grow in relationship with them as like fathers and daughters, and to see them graduate as high school valedictorians and move on to college, and then still they're in college, but it's Mr. Aaron, tell me what you see in me. And it's just like, I'm honored, like I'm honored. I'm honored. And because that means so much to me, because out of everybody in the world to say that to, out of everybody in the world to have a relationship with, somehow our paths crossed, and I've made them better, and they definitely made me better. And so that's what life to me is about. Life isn't that deep. It's not the chase of money. Money, we could chase it, and we can get it, and then we can lose it, just in the same, in the same boat. But how do we make positive impact on others, but also at the same time, how do we open ourselves up to being positively impacted by others too? If that all makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. Yes, my cat is being a bit of a scene stealer right now.
Listen, I get it. I get it. The cat wants in on the conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah. We have two kittens. One of them likes to climb up, and one of them actually cuddles. Of course, the one that likes to climb comes to me.
Absolutely. It's only natural. It's only natural.
So in your line of work, you work at a college, right? And you're like a
Yes.
guidance counselor kind of role.
Yeah, it's I design programs for students of color on campus. And so that's and also design curriculum for students of color on campus. So it's programming, it's curriculum. That's my position. But but my purpose is to help them find purpose. In what I do, whether it be programs or curriculums or guidance counseling, whatever it may be, I make a choice in what I do, especially being at the university, to not stress as much about the academics and let's speak to the person as to who they truly are. And so because I find that is such that 18 to like 23, 24 is such an important time of life in which you're having to walk into an adulthood that you may not have knew existed before, and how do you help them maneuver it? And so you know my job position would tell you, curriculum, design programs, but I really am there to help invest into sow into their lives each and every day, and to give them the type of advice or the type of love, because I'm not afraid to give them love also, and respect and honor that we all needed in our 20s.
Mm. What kind of mental and emotional health problems do you see in young people these days?
They are bombarded with isolation's huge, within this
Oh,
pandemic. Um, and that has played such a role. And we talk about young people being resilient, but it's like, how are they resilient if there's so many adults, like myself in counseling for years? Like let's not overdo, let's not overwork their resilience. And so they're dealing with a lot of isolation and wanting communities, but not necessarily knowing how to embrace this online community, or not not being familiar or comfortable with, after being essentially locked down for 2 years. How do we come back into a community space without thinking about health, without you know it's awkward. And so that's a huge issue. But also, it's the stress of living. I work with primarily students of color. And so you have the pandemic issues, and then you have social issues. And the social issues and the pandemic issues bleed into one another. There is no real time, at least they don't see it, and sometimes I don't see it either. There's no real time to breathe, because if the constant sort of nature of this, COVID-19 and all that, if that isn't, trying to kill you, then something in society is. And so there's just so much stress, from pandemic stress, societal stress, and then you have family expectations of being the one who is carrying the legacy to create opportunities for your family. So there is external stress from family, and then there's internal stress, because how do you sort of manage all of these responsibilities? And so everything is very compacted. There are multiple fractures in these students. And so when I have the opportunity to speak to them, I try to help them talk it out, um, identify the emotions, identify some strategies to sort of maneuver around some of these difficulties and challenges that they face, and help them see the purpose within the pain.
mm. Man, that's heavy. And then not even to mention, this is a very hormonal time of young people's lives.
It's huge. It's huge. And it's you know, and we don't talk about that enough. We don't talk about, it's almost as if once someone turns, let's see, I would say in American society, and I think it's different even for people of color, because there is a expectation of once you turn 18, you're an adult. And so it's almost as if we've trained you for this moment. Now go out and make something in the world. And even though I think it is well intended, the outcome, the outcome is not the best. And so it's a time of, um, I meet a lot of young men who don't find value in themselves. They don't find value in their mind. They don't find value in their heart and their vision because they've been told to be workers, or they've been told to look a certain way, have a certain image, project this certain toughness in this exterior. So I meet a lot of young men like that. Then I meet a lot of young women who are hard workers, but they don't understand that they are very intelligent. And so they think that the only way to get acceptance is through their works and by making people happy. And they don't see their beauty. They see and honor the beauty in others, but they can't see it for themselves. And so it's an interesting time of existence for adulthood, and all things that I remember. I don't remember all from my 20s, but there's certain things that I do remember that I hold on to, which I think almost gives me the perspective to be able to help those in their late teens and 20s, because I'm 37, but I can go back 20 years and remember the isolation, the weirdness, um, the feelings, the emotions of being 17. Like I don't have to travel that far back. And if I'm really honest with myself, a lot of those insecurities, hey, I could feel when I'm 37, and I do feel them. And so, yeah, it's just an interesting point of life, to be that bridge in between, those in their 50s and those in their 20s. And so, I definitely honor and I'm thankful for the position and the purpose that I have.
Mm. I think that's a perfect segue to the next thing that I had written was talk to the overcomer they are. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts about that phrase.
It's to be an overcomer. There's so much that goes into it. I think that we can honor the stories of other people. We hear about these legends that have overcome so much, and we hold these figures on these certain, plateaus. But can we honor our story? And I ask people, I've had to ask, even for myself, like I've had a pretty charmed lifestyle in life. But at the same time, I have to observe and respect things I've had to overcome. Just because I may have had a middle class existence does not mean I didn't go through crap, and that I didn't go through hell. And money doesn't buy happiness. And sometimes you can lose it. I've lost it. And so we all have a story, but we also have to, in many ways, honor our story, but also see the legend that we truly are. Like we are individual legends. You said it earlier, being a superhero. When I was young, I wanted to be a Superman or Batman. In my 30s, in my 20s, I watched a whole lot of Batman movies, including this one, the new one that I'm planning on seeing tomorrow. And people ask me, why do you watch Batman so much? Well, because I think I'm a superhero. And it's okay to still be, in your 30s and still be your own superhero. I want to save the world too. And why not? And who's to tell me that I can't do it? I can. I can. Or I could just get with a whole team of superheroes and we all just save the world together, which is incredible too. And so, we have to honor the legends that we are. Everybody that's listening to this podcast is a legend. Everybody has a story. You are your own overcomer. You are the hero that people are waiting on. And so, I encourage people, there are a lot of, and I hate this sort of aspect about life, but when challenges pop up, we can't get around them. We can't go over them. We have to go through them, but we go through them to help tell somebody else, to help give someone else the directions or the tools or the knowledge or the wisdom or the encouragement that's coming up behind us. how to get through this crisis that you're in. And so, yeah, it's just the overcomer mentality. If we can have that mentality of overcoming, there's nothing that we can't get through.
Yeah, I love it. And I am so with you on so many, on everything. And my heart breaks for people that are isolated, that don't have a community. And it's just one of the reasons I started this YouTube channel in the first place, just wanting to not feel alone, being a mom of two little kids and just never leaving the house except, to take them to the park, and just needing connection, and having these podcast conversations that gives me community and connection that I need, my soul needs.
Yeah.
And I have a second channel called YouTubing with Katie that's for encouraging people to find their voice, to start that YouTube channel that they've been thinking about, to tell their story, discover their superpowers and their community. And so I want to put the link to that down below, and hope to connect with anybody there. Sorry, go ahead.
What you said is so important, because what you're doing, you are as having two daughters, each one of your podcast episodes, each one of your YouTube episodes is a story. And I think this is what's awesome about podcasting. This is what's awesome about technology, is that I look at my podcast. I have perhaps like 250 episodes, and it's there. And people are like, what are you going to do with them? How are you going to monetize? Blah, 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 blah. Listen, I'll get to that. But really, each one of these, this is a chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 for my children, or for my children's children, to hear my voice and my perspective. One of the things I miss most about when people pass away is that I miss their voice. The face fades away, and I dislike that too. But what I wouldn't do to hear my grandmother laugh, or to hear her voice, or to hear and I love you, or to hear another story. And so I look at my podcast as that, my face may fade away for children, or for those who I've mentored, or for those who across the world, but you have my voice. And sometimes that voice lends itself to a story, and I'd rather you have my story than just my face. I'd rather you hear my heart than just see my face. I'd rather you hear my passion than just see my face. And so this is what technology opens itself up to.
Absolutely. It is all about the story.
It is.
So to close up this conversation, I would love for you to have the chance, because as I understand it, you also do a separate kind of coaching, right?
Yes.
So I would love for you to kind of give a message to your ideal, what is that relationship called? Not client, sounds so clinical, doesn't it? What do you prefer to call them? Your ideal person.
People, I call them a partner.
Yeah, partner.
Because just as I learn, hopefully someone else can learn. And so this is a partnership. I do youth mentoring for especially youth in this pandemic. Some will call it life coaching. I just call it investing back into my community, whether my community be here in the United States or my community is across the world. And so I help people find the best of who they are. And sometimes we just need that space of talking some things out. I'm not a trained counselor. I will throw that out there. I'm not a trained counselor, but I've been through enough in life to provide some insight, and more than anything, some encouragement to help people find, why are you here? People aren't just here just to get through life, to make it to whatever, if something else is on the other side. Like, why are you here? And what can you do to invest in this life, to make this life as best as possible each and every day? And so I have that on my website. My website's called I'll spell it out. IAMMUSIC Fali, iamufali.com. And so it is a mentoring for both youth and adults, that I can do, and services that are provided and listed on the website. I'll also do professional development services for organizations and companies. If you need any type of team building activities or motivational speaking or keynote speaking, I'm all for it because I understand how to create culture. Katie, when I go into a place, I create culture, and I create a winning culture in which people are like, what just happened? What happened is that Aaron's in the building. And so I teach people how to create culture, a culture that's a winning culture, a culture that doesn't have to take away from anybody else, that adds value to those around you, doesn't have to take away value from anybody in the space. And so I do that, on as part of my professional development series, and especially within library settings, because I'm a former, library worker. And so, yeah, I'm just here for the people, Katie. I'm just here just to invest positivity back into the people.
Yes, I had to write that down. I create culture. Like,
I do.
Love that.
I do.
So
when
do
I go into a place, people don't get it. It's like what? They're like, what happened? I'm like, we're here. We're here. The culture creators are here, and it can be challenging. It can also be challenging for the individual creating the culture, but we know what we know, and we see what we see. And when you create culture, you have, I can spend all day talking about that. I can.
So I wanted for you to speak to the camera, speak to that person out there that's meant to be a partner in growing together with you. I want you to say something to them, and then we can say bye-bye.
What's amazing is that if you're listening to this episode, you're not here on accident, you're here on purpose. And when people connect, especially when you know that your heart is connected to an episode, you're here on purpose. And I am here for you in whatever capacity that I can be here for you. This isn't a money grab. That's not my motivation. This is an attempt for me to invest into you. That way you can invest in others. And so please reach out to me. Go to my website, iamufali.com. Reach out to me on Instagram. I have a podcast called The Semi-Social Life of a Black Introvert Podcast. Listen to the messages there. A lot of the dialogue that we've had here, we also have on the podcast too. Reach out and I will definitely reach back. I would love to hear from you as an individual. I would love to hear from you as a company, as an organization, as a school, as a library. My heart is here to invest into you, to turn you, your group, your organization into the best possible entity that it can be.
Awesome. And I will, of course, put all the links that you give me to put into the description of this video.
Thank you. Thank you for this. This was amazing. And this was much needed. And same way you invested into me with your words, thank you for providing a space that shows your heart, that shows your insight and your care for community. Like it's so evident that you care for community and that you care for other people and that you sacrifice for people in a way you give to people that before you give to yourself, and it shows your heart. And so thank you for creating this platform in which people can come and see the best of who they are. They can smile, they can cry, they can laugh, they can do anything they want to do because they're safe with you. And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Speaking of crying.
Listen, it's okay. It's okay.
It is okay. I'm not ashamed of my tears.
Yeah.
So thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
So the way that I end conversations is I give hugs. Hugs.
I got you. All the way across the pond.
Yeah.
I got you.